Billerica Public Library's Book Buzz, 2nd edition. Our first category, contemporary fiction. Afterlife. Antonia Vega, the immigrant writer, has had the rug pulled out from under her. She has just retired from the college where she taught English when her beloved husband Sam suddenly dies, and then more jolts. Her big-hearted but unstable sister disappears, and Antonia returns home one evening to find a pregnant, undocumented teenager on her doorstep. Antonia has always sought direction in the literature she loves. Lines from her favorite authors play in her head like a soundtrack, but now she finds that the world demands more of her than words. Kept animals. Rory Ramos is a dutiful teenager with a love of photography who works as a ranch hand at the stable her stepfather manages in Topanga Canyon, California. Rory's ambiguous roots and blue-collar upbringing keep her largely separated from the likes of the Prices and the Frisks, until her stepfather is involved in a tragic car accident. From that moment on, the lives of these teenagers become linked. Are they friends, or foes, lovers, or rivals? Sparking a series of events that come to a head the night a wildfire tears through the Topanga Canyon and Rory's life is changed forever. The Knockout Queen. Bunny Lampert is the princess of North Shore, beautiful, tall, blonde, with a rich real estate developer father and a swimming pool in her backyard. Michael, with the ponytail down his back and a septum piercing, lives with his aunt in a cramped stucco cottage next door. When Bunny catches Michael smoking in her yard, he discovers that her life is not as perfect as it seems. When Michael falls in love for the first time, a vicious strain of gossip circulates, and a terrible, brutal act becomes the defining feature of both his and Bunny's futures, and of their friendship. Perfect Tunes. Laura has arrived in New York City's East Village in hopes of recording her first album. A songwriter with a one-of-a-kind talent, she's just beginning to book gigs with her beautiful best friend when she falls hard for a troubled but magnetic musician whose star is on the rise. Their time together is stormy and short-lived, but will reverberate for the rest of Laura's life. Laura has built a stable life in Brooklyn that bears little resemblance to the one she envisioned when she left Ohio all those years ago. And she's taken pains to close the door on what was and what might have been. But neither her best friend, now a famous musician who relies on Laura's songwriting skills, nor her depressed and searching daughter will let her give up on her dreams. Redhead by the Side of the Road. Makar Mortimer is a creature of habit, a self-employed tech expert, superintendent of his Baltimore apartment building, cautious to a fault behind the steering wheel. He seems content leading a steady life. But one day his routines are blown apart when his woman friend tells him she's facing eviction, and a teenager shows up at his door claiming to be his son. These surprises and the ways they throw his organized life off kilter risk changing him forever. This is My Brain in Love. Jocelyn has 3 wishes for her junior year: to make it through without dying of boredom, to direct a short film with her BFF Priya, and to get at least 2 months into the year without being compared to or confused with Peggy Chang, the other Chinese girl in her grade. Will has 2 goals: to find a paying summer internship and to prove he has what it takes to become editor of his school paper. Then Jocelyn's father tells her their family restaurant may be going under, and all wishes are off because her dad has the marketing skills of a dumpling. It's up to Jocelyn and her unlikely new employee, Will, to bring an A-plus Chinese garden into the 21st century, or at least to Facebook. Our second category, historical fiction. 100 Suns. American Jessie Lesage steps off a boat from Paris and onto the shores of Vietnam. Accompanying her French husband Victor, an heir to the Michelin rubber fortune, she's certain that their new life is full of promise. While the rest of the world is sinking into economic depression, Indochina is a gold for the Michelins. Jessie knows that their vast plantations near Saigon are the key to the family's prosperity. And while they have been married in scandal, she needs them to succeed for her husband's sake and to ensure that her trail of secrets stays hidden in the past. Miss Austen, England, 1840. For the 2 decades following the death of her beloved sister Jane, Cassandra Austin has lived alone, spending her days visiting friends and relations and quietly and purposely working to preserve her sister's reputation. Now in her 60s and increasingly frail, Cassandra goes to stay with the Fowles, a family of her long-dead fiancé, in search of a trove of Jane's letters. Dodging her hostess and a meddlesome housemaid, Cassandra eventually hunts down the letters and confronts the secrets they hold. Secrets not only about Jane, but about Cassandra herself. Will Cassandra bear the most private details of the life to her world or commit her sister's legacy to the flames? Our third category is mystery. Hid from our eyes. 1952. Miller's Kill Police Chief Harry McNeil is called to a crime scene where a woman in a party dress has been murdered with no obvious cause of death. 1972. Miller's Kill Police Chief Jack Little is called to a murder scene of a woman that's very similar to the one he worked as a trooper in the 50s. The only difference is this time they have a suspect. A young Vietnam War veteran, Russ Van Alsten, found the body while riding his motorcycle and is quickly pegged as the prime focus of the investigation. Present day. Miller's Kill Police Chief Russ Van Alsten gets a 911 call that a young woman has been found dead in a party dress. The same MO as the crime he was accused of in the 70s. The pressure is on for Russ to solve the murder before he's removed from the case. Truths I Never Told You. With her father recently moved to a care facility for his worsening dementia, Beth Walsh volunteers to clear out the family home and is surprised to discover the door to her childhood playroom padlocked. She's even more shocked at what's behind it. A hoarder's mess of her father's paintings, mounds of discarded papers, and miscellaneous junk in an otherwise tidy house. As she picks through the clutter, she finds a loose journal entry in what appears to be her late mother's handwriting. Beth and her siblings grew up believing their mother died in a car accident when they were little more than toddlers, but this note suggests something much darker. Our fourth category is thriller and suspense. Death in Her Hands. While on her normal daily walk with her dog in the forest woods, our protagonist comes across a note, handwritten and carefully pinned to the ground with a frame of stones. Her name was Magna. Nobody will ever know who killed her. It wasn't me. Here is her dead body. Our narrator is deeply shaken. She has no idea what to make of this. She is new to the area, having moved here from her longtime home after the death of her husband, and she knows very few people. Her brooding about this note quickly grows into a full-blown obsession, and she begins to devote herself to exploring the possibilities of who this woman was and how she met her fate. Her suppositions begin to find echoes in the real world, and with mounting excitement and dread, the fog of a mystery starts to form into a concrete and menacing shape. Take Me Apart. When the famed photographer Miranda Brand died mysteriously at the height of her career, it sent shockwaves through California. Decades later, old wounds are reopened when her son Theo hires ex-journalist Kate Atkin to create an archive of his mother's work. Kate pieces together a portrait of a vibrant artist buckling under the pressures of ambition, motherhood, and marriage. As the summer progresses, Kate navigates vicious local rumors and her growing attraction to Theo, all the while unearthing shocking details of Miranda's private life. But Kate has secrets of her own, and when she stumbles across a diary that may finally resolve the mystery of Miranda's death, her curiosity starts to spiral into a dangerous obsession. Valentine. In the early hours of the morning after Valentine's Day, 14-year-old Gloria appears on the front porch of Mary Rose Whitehead's ranch house, broken and barely alive. The teenager had been viciously attacked in the nearby oil field, an act of brutality that is tried in the churches and the barrooms of Odessa before it can reach a court of law. When justice is evasive, the stage is set for a showdown with potentially dangerous consequences. Our first section in the nonfiction area is self-help. Hello, I want to die. Please fix me. In her early 20s, while outwardly thriving in her dream job and enjoying family support and a strong social network, award-winning journalist Anna Papini found herself trapped by feelings of failure and despair. Her first suicide attempt, ingesting a deadly mix of sleeping pills and antifreeze, landed her in the ICU, followed by weeks of enforced detention that ran the gamut of horrifying, boring, hilarious, and absurd. This was Anna's entry into the psychiatric care system responsible for providing care to millions of Canadians. It's about damn time. In 2015, Alan Hamilton was on food stamps and sleeping on the floor of the San Francisco airport with nothing but an old laptop and a dream of breaking into venture capital business. She couldn't understand why people starting companies all look the same, white and male. And she wanted a chance to invest in the ideas and people who didn't conform to this image of how a founder is supposed to look. Hamilton had no contacts or network in the Silicon Valley, no background in finance, not even a college degree. What she did have was fierce determination and the will to succeed. Hamilton understands that being undervalued simply means that a big upside exists. Because even if you have to work twice as hard to get to the starting line, she says once you are on a level playing field, you will sprint ahead. Yeah, no, not happening. Why we are so obsessed with being our so called best selves. Because our modern culture force feeds women lies designed to heighten their insecurities. You can do it all. Crush it at work, at home, in the bedroom, at PTA, and at Pilates. And because you can, you should, we can show you how. Karen Cabo has had enough. She is taking a stand against the cultural and society pressures, marketing, media influences that push us to spend endless time and energy and money trying to fix ourselves. A race that has no finish line and only further increases our self dissatisfaction and loathing. Yeah, no, not happening is her battle cry. Second section in nonfiction is discrimination. Begin again. Glad suggests we can find hope and guidance through our own aftertimes, this Trumpian era of shattered promises and white retrenchment. We are to bear witness to the difficult truth of race in America today. It is at once a searing exploration that lays bare the tangled web of race, trauma, and memory in a powerful integration of what we all must ask ourselves in order to call forth a new America. How to argue with a racist. The science of race is constantly changing, and you need to change with it. If you want to think and talk about race in an enlightened, sensitive, and scientifically supported way, Rutherford takes us on a tour of the common misconceptions and malicious falsehoods we are unwittingly allowed to live on. And then he shows us using cutting edge genetics how ways we've been characterizing people for centuries are almost entirely unsupported by science. Our third area in nonfiction is science. Borrowing Life. Performed at Boston Brigham's Hospital in 1954, the first successful kidney transplant was the culmination of years of grit, compassion, and the pursuit of excellence by a remarkable medical team. Nobel Prize winning surgeon Joseph Murray, his boss and fellow surgeon Francis Moore, and British scientist and fellow Nobel laureate Peter Menoir. Earth Almanac. Williams explains the weather conditions that bring out the brightest reds in autumn leaves, how hungry wolf spiders catch their prey, and why American goldfinches wait until late July or August to build their nests. In the tradition of Thoreau, Carson, and Leopold, Ted Williams' writing stands as a testament to the delicate balance of nature's resilience and fragility, and inspires readers to experience the natural world for themselves and to become advocates for protecting and preserving the amazing diversity and activity found there. Nerve. Award-winning long-form journalist Eva Holland had always felt that her deepest fear was the death of a loved one. When her mother suddenly passes away, she's sent spiraling into an odyssey of confronting fear itself. Along with investigating the science of fear, Holland uses herself as a test subject, jumping out of airplanes, rock climbing, and delving into her fears of loss to better understand what her research in the science medicine, and history of fear reveals. Our fourth area of nonfiction is miscellaneous, a little bit of everything. The Golden Flea. For decades, the Chelsea Flea Market on the west side of Manhattan drew shoppers seeking treasures and boots, crammed with vintage dresses, ancient swords, glass eyeballs, Afghan rugs, West African fetish dolls, old master paintings, and much more. Rip introduces the Flea's lovable oddball vendors, including the haberdasher who only sells to those who he deems worthy, the art dealer whose obscure paintings often go for enormous sums, the troubadour who sings to attract customers, as well as pickers and collectors of every stripe. Kitchens Without Borders, a cookbook with wide-ranging roots and a very deep heart. 80 authentic off-the-beaten-path recipes for delicious dishes from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Venezuela, and other countries are shared by chefs who arrived in the U.S. as refugees and found work at the Eat Offbeat Catering Kitchen. Writing Wild. Catherine also celebrates 25 women, both historical and current, whose influential writings help deepen our connection to and understanding of the natural world. These inspiring wordsmiths are scholars, spiritual seekers, conservationists, scientists, novelists, and explorers. They defy the easy categorization, yet they all share a bold authenticity that makes their work both distinct and universal. Our last category in nonfiction is memoirs. Diary of a Drag Queen. In these pages, find glamour and gaffes on and off the stage, clarifying snippets of queer theory, terrifying selfish bosses, sex, quick sex, KFC binges, group sex, the kind of honesty that banishes shame, gives glimmer of hopes, blazes of ambition, tender sex, mad dashes in last night's heels, plus a full face of makeup and a romantic comedy love story for the ages. This is where the unspeakable becomes celebrated. This is the diary of a drag queen. One dazzling, hilarious, true performance of a real, flawed, extraordinary life. Mistranslations. Approaching his 30th birthday, Sofan had found comfort in his day job as a writer for the New York Times and a practicing comedian. But his stage material highlighting his South Asian culture only served to mask the insecurities born from his family history. Sofan's experiences as a stand-up comedian propel him on a dramatic journey to India to see his father. The first step in a life-altering journey to bridge the emotional distances separating him from those whose DNA he shared. My wife said you may want to marry me. On March 3, 2017, Amy Krauss Rosenthal penned an op-ed piece for the New York Times Modern Love column. You may want to marry my husband. It appeared 10 days before her death from cancer. A heartbreaking, very brutally honest and creative play on a personal ad, in which a dying wife encouraged her husband to go on and find happiness after her demise. The column quickly went viral, reaching more than 5 million people worldwide. To me, he was just Dad. Men like John Wayne, John Lennon, Nolan Ryan, Bruce Lee, Christopher Reeve, and Miles Davis have touched the lives of millions. But at home, to their children, they were not their public persona. They were Dad. Each of these 40 first-person narratives, intimate, heartfelt, unvarnished, surprisingly, and profoundly universal, shows us not only a very different view of a figure we knew, but also a wholly fresh and moving idea of what it means to be a father.